Um, and yeah, start by saying hello, everybody. Thank you so much to the British Lichen Society for inviting me to join you all. It's been such a pleasure kind of discovering that this community exists of lichen lovers, and I've been really enjoying all of the activities and findings and discussions on Twitter. So it's great to be able to kind of meet even digitally, virtually, some of the people behind those accounts that I'm following on Twitter. My name is Bryony Benge Abbott. On Twitter, I'm Bryony and Bloom. And I'm an artist and exhibitions project manager and producer, currently based in rural Kent, normally found in London. But I'm joining you today from my temporary studio in a beautiful village called Woodchurch, which I moved to it was supposed to be just for 2 weeks, but it was at the beginning of lockdown. And so I'm still here, but I'm not complaining because I'm surrounded by beautiful fields and woodlands and lots of lichens. So great amounts of inspiration. But I wanted today to talk for a few minutes about a lichen-inspired mural that I created in North London, in Archway, 2 years ago. But before I do, I'm just going to briefly give you a bit of a background to my practice. So in all areas of my practice, whether it's as curator, as artist, or as producer, I'm really oh dear, this is the problem with, hang on. I'm really kind of, I guess, focusing on exploring different ways to encounter and experience the richness of the natural world. So delving into different dimensions and working in different disciplines to create journeys, or as I think of as kind of portals into nature. And this is kind of be human nature, and it can also be like more than human nature. And it really, for myself and for the audiences that I'm working with, it's about trying to gather a deep sense of the intricacies of life. So these images here are from some of the exhibitions I curated or project managed at the Francis Crick Institute, which is a role that I left just in October last year, after 4 years of leading the exhibitions program there. My time working with biomedical researchers, studying the fundamentals of human health and disease, has had a huge impact on my practice as an artist. The opportunity to delve into the microscopic kind of cellular and molecular worlds and observe the human body through the eyes of scientists has brought a whole new dimension to my practice in my own search for making sense of the visible world around us. And it was also a fantastic opportunity to kind of really pursue my passion for breaking down barriers to accessing and participating in science. So I took every opportunity I could to invite in those who perhaps do not automatically feel like they belong in the world of science, to co-create and co-produce exhibitions with my team and the Crick scientists, translating the research into new creative languages that speak to and resonate with diverse audiences. As an artist, this kind of interest continues, and I work largely in oils. So the painting on the left is a painting called Lichen Blue, but I'm not really interested in creating kind of really realistic botanical illustrations. I'm kind of reaching for a more sensory experience of place and landscape, and thinking about time and scale, and almost kind of losing oneself in the natural world, but finding meaning in that. And I'm interested in how we create meaning and the stories and the myths that we tell about ourselves, and about our relationship with the natural world. And I'm really interested in how we enhance our sense of connection with nature and tap into a more instinctual, wild, ancient relationship with and reverence for the natural world. So these are the kind of questions that are currently inspiring my artistic practice. And as well as painting in oils, like my paintings kind of move beyond the frame. So here you can see there's some wallpaper being printed of this Lichen Blue painting. And this was being printed by Epson Europe at Heim Textile in Frankfurt, about 7 years ago. So I've been really kind of exploring how I can take my paintings beyond the frame into the interior surface kind of world. And in the paintings themselves, I am really kind of also moving the oils around the surface of the oil painting. So growing beyond the traditional kind of frame, the box frame, as I study the details, the textures of lichen. And I'm bringing different mediums into my work as well. So increasingly textiles and playing with resin and found images and drawing. But in this painting here, I started to bring in spray paint and combining that with oils as I studied the kind of patterns and folds of lichen, kind of contrasting the structures and the delicacy of it. And most recently, I've been kind of developing my participatory art practice by taking people out on what I'm calling wild drawing walks. And I describe wild drawing as drawing with, of, and in nature. And it's really about encouraging a more intimate relationship with the natural world that can be found on our doorstep. So how can we occupy different perspectives and situate ourselves within the landscape and recognize ourselves as belonging to something bigger than the human world? How can drawing and mark making help us, tap into that sense? And lichen invariably kind of features in my guided drawing exercises because, I find it everywhere, but it's also just a really fantastic kind of portal into a different world. Like just spending a few minutes of close observation of lichen, I find, is hugely meditative, and it captures the imagination of workshop participants when you encourage them to study it in the way that kind of taps into the childlike glee of discovering minute magical worlds in the garden or on walks through the parks and the woodland. Us adults, we still have that childlike imagination kind of inside of us. And I guess one aspect of wild drawing is helping us to connect with that and to encourage us to do that on a daily basis. A natural progression for me, after moving my paintings off the canvas onto interior furnishings and wallpapers, was to keep increasing the scale of my work and start painting bigger and applying my paintings onto brick and concrete walls within the public realm. There are just so many like dull, grey, man-made environments that we're supposed to live and thrive in, and we're just completely deprived of colour and nature, both of which we know dramatically lift our spirits and enhance our health and well-being. And I just think the street art I'm interested in making is about kind of playing a role in enlivening these spaces and carrying and sharing narratives that shine a light on our human nature connection, and designing it so that they spark dialogue around nature access and green space access. So in 2018, I was contacted by the zero emissions team at Islington Council, who were creating a new clean air walk as part of the Mayor of London's clean air strategy. And they wanted a street artist to create a work that would attract pedestrians leaving Whittington Hospital, and encourage them to take a far less polluted route through Girdleston Estate, passing through a lovely little park, which is kind of hidden in the middle of the estate, and taking them directly to Archway Tube Station, thereby avoiding the heavily congested and polluted main road. And my brief was to create a mural that was colourful and attention-grabbing, and I was encouraged to think about the whole space, not just a flat wall. And I knew instantly that this was a fantastic opportunity to celebrate the humble lichen, so overlooked but found on the trees within this estate. And I saw this as a chance to kind of really share with the residents that their local lichen indicates levels of pollution, and also, to bring a dose of colour and play and beauty into inner city Archway as well, which, incidentally, I lived in at that time. The project involved coming up with several different concepts and designs and sharing these with those who lived and worked around the estate, and gathering feedback from as many people as possible ahead of the installation. And whilst I was on site, which was for about 2 weeks, I spent a great deal of time chatting to residents about the mural and why I chose to focus on lichen. People of all ages were curious. It is a spectacle to have a street artist in residence, especially for such a long period of time. Whilst I do work in spray paints, and that's a much faster way of creating street art, I primarily use brush. And this gives the finished work a more painterly feel, which is more my kind of aesthetic, but it also allows for greater more consistent community engagement as I become a familiar face. you know, by the end of this project, I had doctors from the hospital and residents from the estate regularly bringing me cups of coffee and snacks and just coming back to check on the progress of the mural on a daily basis. So I had loads of opportunities to talk about what I find so aesthetically beautiful about lichen, and also talk about, you know, a lichen as an organism, or, you know, or the fact that it's two or more organisms working symbiotically, and how it's sensitive to air quality, and that it can be kind of read to kind of, you know, tell us a lot more about our environment and changes in our environment. And I use this canvas here as an opportunity really to kind of just really show all the range of different possible shapes and forms that can be found, and to play with color. The images that surround us are such powerful statements of what we value, and they really influence our attitudes, our behaviors, our sense of community, of safety, of well-being, or lack thereof. And so I really loved creating a large permanent mural of lichen, because it's just, well, it's really unexpected, and it's unusual to be encouraged on this large scale public way to slow down and to pay closer attention to the natural world around us, you know, the lichen that can be found in and around our environments, and to tune in to what it says about the routes we're taking and the ways in which we are developing our cities. So, you know, it was just huge amounts of fun to paint lichen on this massive scale, and to have these conversations, and to surprise so many people with the subject, and the shapes and the forms, and to kind of really engage with in conversation with so many different people during my time on Girdleston Estate. And it was great also to have the filmmaker Ellie Mackay on site. So she created a short film, which I'm going to ask now the British Lichen Society team to play. Hopefully the link works. But I just wanted to close by saying that it was just great fun to do this, and I really hope that by sharing this one mural, it inspires many other street artists to kind of explore and study and celebrate the humble lichen in our city, on our city walls. And, you know, if anyone has any big walls that needs adorning, give me a shout. I would love to help the society claim more and more space for lichen in the public consciousness. So yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I'm really enjoying following the rest of the AGM.